moves on the street. Allow nothing to be in your life that you cannot walk out on in 30 seconds flat if you spot the heat around the corner.
Now, my life's a disaster zone because I spend all my time chasing guys like you around the block.
I do what I do best. I take scores. You do what you do best, trying to stop guys like me.
If you are from my generation, you just got goosebumps, baby. And you started reciting lines the moment these characters come on screen. This is it's a cult classic, it's a commercial classic, it's a industry beloved classic. It is a classic by classic standards. Like, this is the only way you can define this film is a fucking classic. Like, you can find a million videos on YouTube of people breaking down every freaking scene of this movie and talking about how beautifully constructed the characters are, the cinematography. You know, they will break down every nuance of this film. Am I correct that Michael Mann did this?
Yes.
Yes.
And is it okay if I say this was probably the point where he flushed the rest of his career down the toilet?
Absolutely.
All righty then. All right. Woo-hoo! So anyway, let me give you my initial impressions, and then I'll just back out of the room because these guys they're gonna kill this. You know what I'm saying? Is that I was a kid. I was in high school when it first hit theaters. But I didn't see the film until maybe a decade later. Not going to say a decade, but maybe like 5 or 6 years. And I'm going to date myself. When I purchased this, it was in VHS form. And it came with 2 VHS tapes. So it was like this big ass fucking shrink wrap box. And it had, at the time, the 2 most prominent actors in action, and like you're talking about 2 actors that define criminal action. Well, where they both were in The Godfather. One's in this gangster film, the other one's in this gangster film, Scarface, and this and that, and all of these films, these great beloved films, but you never get to see them go head to head. So this is an action. This is like a 1980s, 90s action movie lovers like wet dream. Like, you get to see these guys are going at each other. It's not over the top. It's not screaming and jumping off of buildings. It's a real gritty street level. And I'm just still talking about the trailer because like everything I'm seeing in the trailer is making me go, oh, I've got to see this. But I'm too poor at the time. I couldn't afford those 2 VHS tapes. But when I came into funds, when I got to work and move into my own place, because you can't watch this around the parents because there was titties and extreme levels of violence. But once I got my own, Jesus, I was delivered into the promised land. So I'm going to leave it at that. Then I'm going to move it on to Dad Panther. You know what I'm saying? What's up, man?
I enjoyed this movie, but the initial reaction was, or thought was, this was a classic on so many levels. And so to be able to watch this, and I couldn't remember anything. So I honestly watched it as if it was the first time I saw it. I did not know. I kind of had an understanding there was no significant twist, but I was like, I got a chance to enjoy it completely. And I even watched it halfway the second go around. I just started back up and started again. So initially I just wanted to, soak it all up in. So yeah, that's it.
Okay, Iris.
Before I forget to unmute myself. So of course, initial reaction is I was just excited because I remember it from when I was younger. We'll leave it at that. And I do recall that the 2 VHSs myself. Vaguely though, vaguely. um, but I was excited because I do agree this is a classic, and it's like these 2 men, Robert De Niro and Al Pacino, together in this movie is like beautiful. I love seeing those 2 actors. They are both my favorite actors when it comes to like crime dramas, anything that's really gritty. Those are like the best two actors. Like I love them in stuff like that. And so my initial reaction was like, "Yay, we're doing Heat!" That was my initial reaction.
Eddie.
Yeah, so my initial reaction back then, I actually was fortunate enough to see it in theaters, and I actually went and saw it like literally 3 weekends in a row. Sorry, JS1, but my initial reaction was extreme excitement. You know, they were pumping it up more so than the story. All every outlet kept talking about was the two people face to face on the screen for the first time, how it's iconic. It's film history in the making. Automatically, it's going to be talked about for years to come. And I was so hyper focused on that. And then on top of that, the movie itself was an added bonus. I went to see that moment. I was, and then the movie itself was just an added bonus. So I was super excited.
Agreed. Agreed. All right. So who wants to do their highs and lows? Who wants to kick it off?
All right.
Really?
Well, I'll go.
There you go.
All right. So my highs for me was definitely the chemistry with everybody on the set. They cast it perfectly. I felt like everybody, even though they were in their own lane with their clout, you know, they people understood that this is about the creativity. You know, egos weren't overshining through the role. People weren't overacting, trying to outdo each other. It was just all about the story and the performance. So my highs for that was definitely all those people you had that were trying to give you the best product possible. The acting was great. Cinematography was great. The writing of De Niro's character and the whole process, that world, I thought that was great. And also one of my highs was that it introduced me to bearer bonds. I didn't understand the value of bearer bonds. Didn't even know what they were until I saw that movie. So that was another tremendous high. And again, to get that film moment in history with those two sharing the scene together, and it wasn't cheated like nowadays when they put people in commercials. You know, LeBron do AT&T commercial, but he filmed it in his living room, and then they composite now. Anyway, so you don't get that stuff nowadays. Back then, they actually put them together, and then to hear the stories when I watched the DVD behind the scenes that they were asking for multiple takes. They wanted to give more. They wanted that scene just as much as we did, and I love that. So and the whole process of that atmosphere, the world, what one for me making me want to root for the bad guys, I think is a phenomenal acting storytelling itself. It doesn't happen often. I mean, well, it's nowadays everybody wants to be mafia, everybody wants to be a drug dealer, but back then, making you want the good guy, the bad guys to win, even though the good guy is somebody that's iconic to you. That just lets you know that the story itself was definitely good. As far as lows, the only real lows that I have um is, and I'm sorry if I'm stealing from other people's thunder. You know, I'm not going to even do that. I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to say that, in my opinion, that the lows was that the good guys were not really. I feel like the good guys weren't written strong enough. That's what I'll say. I feel like that we got lucky that Al Pacino was willing to play that part, but
Hmm.
really, the writing for the good guys was flat, and that's why you end up wanting the bad guys to win so much. It's so focused on them and developing them and their partnership, and we just got blessed that Al Pacino was willing to take on such a flat role, in my opinion. And
Hmm.
that's all I got.
That's deep. Yo, Iris, this takes place in New York, your old stomping ground. So you can now stomp on Eddie and disagree. So like just go ahead and take it away.
It's actually
I'm
in LA. I thought, yeah,
yeah,
For real, was it?
it's not
yeah.
Yeah,
in New York. So
LA.
Oops.
anyways, there is not I would not say I disagree with Mr. Lingo here. But I would have to say my highs is I liked the contrast between Al Pacino's character and Robert De Niro's character. How Robert De Niro, as the criminal, he is more calm and collective and very concise with what he's doing. While Al Pacino, just as great, but you see more of a he's more bombastic compared to Robert De Niro's character. You know, there's moments where he's really sarcastic and just gets wild and crazy, and I liked the contrast between those two characters. You know, and another high for me is that he is actually based off of a true story. It's really about Neil. Well, I think that crime guy Neil McCauley. And the
Hmm.
funny thing is the scene of where Al Pacino and Robert De Niro's character are meeting for coffee. That actually happened. They really did that. And they
Mhm.
put that into the movie. So I really like that they try to like put pieces that, you know, really happened with this criminal and this detective, with Chuck Adamson, who was the detective in real life. Um, and they try to include those real pieces into the movie, into the story, so that, you know, um, you can really connect with these characters. And my only low for this movie is that I feel like now Natalie Portman's character as the stepdaughter to Al Pacino, um, I don't feel like her character was necessary. I feel
Mm.
like, you know, it was just like a side piece, like so that you can see, because the movie is so focused on our bad guys. That's why you're rooting for for the bad guys, because you get to see their personal lives. And there are other detectives, but Al Pacino, his life is the only life you really get to see what's going on personally for him. And I just feel like Natalie Portman's like character just, I don't know. I just feel like it was just some extra shit that they put in the movie. I don't feel like it was necessary at all, you know? Um, Especially because the main focus is these two men and who's gonna win, you know? So that was my only low, really, for the
Okay.
movie. Yeah.
All right. Dad Panther, take it away.
All right, so I'll go into the highs. The highs is this is a classic movie. I mean, you can watch it now and you can still see how great this movie is, even with some of the flaws that you'll see, whether weapons or certain. But that action scene is one of the best shootouts, and a lot of movies take nod to that. The whole style of it just had a great feel. It didn't feel like a soda. It felt like not even like a bubbly Four Locos or something. It felt like a bourbon whiskey. Relax, turn off the lights, and just enjoy the cinema you're watching.
Mm.
The cast was smooth. I mean, again, like Lingo mentioned before, we don't see that really as much now. People pay to go see the name of the person in the movie and to have these stars and then stars before they, I think at one point you had the Allstate guy who became President Palmer on 24. Like you had a lot of like Natalie and all these other things where it's like this cast was something and still something. The story was intriguing. The only thing that I would say that would be bad, I wouldn't say the only thing, there was a few things. The downfall of it was I'll just go off with the diversity. There wasn't much diversity here. It could have been just the time and where we were, but any character that was Black or Spanish, any character that was a female wasn't anything more than just to push the narrative. It's almost like you saw them on screen and you're like, they're not going to last long. Why? Because they had nothing to do with anything important. Other than one or two characters, and one for each side. That was really it. The other thing was, I wish we would have got another one. I mean, I know you guys joked and said the director, the writer slash kind of fell off maybe afterwards, but I mean, it would have been so cool to see a sequel. I know they're working on one, but the other thing that I would say was the teams weren't equal. And so Lingo mentioned that earlier, where when you really go back and watch this, it's unfortunate because there's no balance of the team. You're so drawn to the bad guys because, yes, one, you get the development of what's going on. And the other thing about it is the bad guys are cunning. They're smart. They're sophisticated. They're brutal. There's so many layers to it, even when they fuck up. But they're one step, multiple steps ahead of the police. And when you look at Owl's character and his team, there was nobody that stood out. If you really break it down, I hate to say it, almost every time that they caught up to the bad guys, it was only because they used a handicap. It was they had a snitch. They lucked up. Somebody turned around and they shouldn't. But in all honesty, you rooting for the bad guys because they're on their job. They're standing on business. So it's one of those movies that I wanted the bad guy to win. I didn't want Pacino or Al Pacino to die or nothing like that. No cop getting shot, but I was really rooting for the bad guy. And so for me, it's still a classic, but I wish I had a second, like mid 90s.
Wow. I love the way you guys have gone in and broken this down. as you know, as the resident retard, you know, I don't, you know, it took me a long time to understand how deep this film was. The first 3 or 4 watches when I was young, I just thought it was great, and these are the reasons why I thought it was great. Uh, I love immersive films. This is before I realized that films didn't need to be so long. I just felt like whatever the time was, that's what I was meant to sit in. So the immersion of it, the late nights, the drive in, and like, I mean, it's just such a lifestyle film, so that you have time to really get to know. It's so slow because they want you to get to know the characters. They want you to understand what it's like to, you know, be in an investigation and going through all of this stuff. So you're really living in both of these worlds between the cop and the other guys. So I thought that was amazing. As much as I hear everything you guys are saying, I feel like there was a purpose for all of it. I feel like Natalie Portman being just a piece of shit was important to highlighting how cops aren't always the good guys. You know, they're not always making the best decisions. And it's not because they're necessarily bad people. It might be because they're idiots, or it might be because they're overworked and underappreciated, or they're obsessive compulsive, like completely obsessive. And there's the only thing that's important to them is their reputation and them, you know, getting their guy because that's what they're good at, and everything else they're trash at. And then there's this thing where the bad guys are not always really bad. This is just something that, man, I fell into it when I was a kid, and I ended up being really good at it. I have a talent for it, and it is what it is. And I follow the rules, and they don't do it because they want to hurt people, or that because they're just these savage individuals. It's just like, yo, man, like, all right, I could rob a bank. I know you're gonna get your money back. It's insured. You know, as long as everybody does what they're supposed to do, as long as my team does what they're supposed to do, and the people I'm telling get the fuck down, as long as nobody gets hurt. We get in, we get out. It is what it is. And then we have rules for everything that's supposed to come out of it. And then comes the reality of no matter how much you might have your life figured out and organized, there's always a tripwire. There's always something that you haven't accounted for, and you never know. And are you? And then the last part is, are you man enough to stick to the code that you set yourself into? You know, and are you willing to deal with the consequences of that code? And I think that was, I'm just a sucker for honor and duty type stuff. You know what I mean? So when you see this film play out the way it plays out, you got a little thug tear going on at the end. You know what I'm saying? Cause you see some shit. Man, goddamn, you know what I mean? As I think about it now, and as I watched it again as I was growing, I was like, man, I could have shaved off a few little spaces here and there. I could have done without maybe 1 or 2 scenes. Not a lot. I mean, like, it's still, it's instead of it being like 3 and some change, I probably would have been like 2:45 for me. But I love this film. It's a classic. I think both of them play unique versions of themselves. And this was the first time I see good and evil not as polar opposites, but as the same person. And then good and evil is sitting down and they're having a real life conversation. And that to me was like, wow. Like, because I'm thinking when you're in the trailer, like, somebody going to snuff that motherfucker and, blah, 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 you know what I mean? Like, you just waiting for, but it's such an adult moment. You know what I mean? And it's not like something that happens 15 minutes in. This is like an hour and a half in. So they're making a lot of moves. A lot of stuff is happening. And then, realistically, and I'm not trying to give anything away, but, there's a character that's just like, you know what? I'm tired of this shit. And, you know what I mean? Oh, nah. Like, we're going to talk. And, you know what I mean? And I thought that was like, once again, not a stereotypical scene you see in action films. Now, this film starts to change how action films and how action characters are built in the future. How we look at character building, how we look at bad guys. This is one of those films that redefines what a villain is, or the fact that we can have villains of different styles. It's just not the evil man. I'm gonna kill them all tonight. Come on, boys, everybody. The grandma can go. Like it stopped being about that, and it started being more. You sympathize and you empathize with this, so that whatever happens at the end of the film, nobody's the winner. And you're the worst person because you're crying, man, my man didn't have to get killed like that, or man, they had to do him like that. You know what I mean? Like there's never a winner you come out of these films, but you do get that emotional kind of connection. And I think that, hence, we're looking at this time period and you see how they take you through this Avengers thing. And then at first it's so easy for you to not like the big villain, and then the big villain gives you the plot twist, and you kind of like, man, you ain't wrong, but come on, you ain't gotta do it like that. You know what I'm saying? Like that's that kind of thing, man. I love that, and seeing that as being like, I can see that this is one of those films that kind of helps create the future of what we enjoy now. It's just that I wish that Michael Mann would watch his own films and see why he sucks now. So with that being said, Michael Mann sucks. I just recently, what did we fucking watch? Let me stop.
Ferrari.
My bad.
It's funny because he's working on the sequel.
Ferrari 2? Oh God.
No.
Okay, good.
No, Heat 2.
Heat 2.
I'm about to say, I don't know if this team can last with another Ferrari film. No, just playing.
Yeah, but he didn't write Ferrari, so that's half the problem there. There's like 3 writers on that.
So are we bringing back Pacino and what you call it? Are they going to play the main characters in this?
I don't know. There was a book that came out. It was a bestseller that did Heat 2, and they didn't say exactly what the plot is for it, but I don't know. I mean, what would you guys do if you guys are writing?
I get these 2 90-year-old dudes and put some big gigantic guns in their hands. I'm gonna kill you.
I saw Al Pacino recently in that docu-series with Sylvester Stallone on Paramount Plus, and I would not put that man on camera. He looks like absolute shit.
Don't do it.
It would just diminish his legacy.
No. I was telling Lingo, I'm like, if it was me, I would enjoy if you just handed it to a new crowd. You give just this captivating story in a new city, and Al's character has maybe a precinct named after him. It's just a picture in the background, just a nod. And Chris, who's one of the people that's left, it's maybe his son, and he's continuing what that is. And you watch it with the new technology and social media. How do you pull off a heist?
What happens is the daughter ends up becoming a cop. Pacino's daughter becomes a cop, and then he slept with the one chick before he dipped off. So they have a kid. So the kid comes, and now inevitably they're locked into this, kind of like mystical. They have to go against each other because that's just how the cosmos is.
Mystical.
God.
Danger.
Remember, Natalie Portman wasn't his daughter. Like, not his daughter. That was his stepdaughter. Her dad was a piece of shit, and you just never saw.
Nope.
Got you.
Who he was.
You thought she was crazy at first.
Yeah. Like, there's an imaginary man that she thinks is her daddy.
And that's what they painted. Like, even when he was in the tub, I'm like, is Al in trouble? Because, I mean, he's supposed to be watching her. And in reality, no, she just chose his hotel, his place to do it. And the mom was like, she chose you. And that means something. Does it?
Does it?
Not
you
for the
whore?
plot? Not for the plot.
Fucking wife.
I felt bad for that dude. What was that dude's name? They was like, yeah, you can fuck my wife. You can sit in my house, but you're not going to watch my TV. This 19-inch 3-channel with the rabbit ears.
That's Hank Azaria. That's who played that part.
Oh, you're right.
I think that is the only time I would condone domestic violence, because that bitch would have gotten a back motherfucking hand from me. Like, no lie. That's some grimy ass shit. Your man out there working his ass off. I'm sorry. I take it back. Sorry, ladies. It's stuff I don't agree with.
We're all fine here.
I don't think she's wrong. I mean, she asked for time, and he was trying to give her a watch, and she really wanted time. She wasn't wrong.
But you have to understand, like, those are things you sign up for. hey, I'm marrying a detective, I'm marrying a cop. Their schedules are ridiculous. There is no set schedule. It's not a 9 to 5. That's like, oh, my husband is a doctor. Oh, you don't have time for me. Bitch, I'm a doctor. I'm on call. Like I told you what I was doing, what my life was. But here I am. You got a beautiful home. I'm not cheating on you. All I do is work and come home to you when I can.
When I can.
And I provide
Right.
you with everything that
All
you
right.
need.
All right, all right, all right. We gotta move on. We gotta move. We're 43 minutes in.
Yes. I
We're
told you
bringing
I
the
was going
heat.
ham on
Yeah,
heat
I see.
because
Well, you need to go ham on rye with
Right,
mustard
yeah.
and cheese. So anyway, before we do that, ham on rye with mustard and cheese. All right.
right.
Is it a classic? Is it a good watch? Is it catch on streaming? Is it not doing for me? Is it a
Oh hell no!
sounds so sweet? If you ever show me this ever again, I will. Iris, go first. Your review.
Of course, it's a classic. I don't even know why we're going around the room with this.
To be honest, yeah.
It's like
Maybe Dad Panther might have a change of opinion. Sir, is this a classic good watch catch on streaming not doing it for me? Is it a
Oh hell no!
or something else?
Award-winning classic. It's a
Nah,
classic. It should
man.
have another tier.
Man, oh man.
Above classic. Oh, okay.
Award-winning classic.
oh,
Classic
wow.
on classic on classic. All right, Eddie, you feeling the same way?
Yes, classic on classic on classic.
Mhm.
Might be a little rough for me though. Might be a little
He's a
rough.
lie. He's a lie. I was
Uh-huh.
like,
You're
I
like,
know.
don't make
Why
me come
you
through this
always
camera.
lying? You always lying.
You gotta keep styling on these people, man. You gotta keep styling on them. You never know.
Yeah.